Hey everyone, this is Miss Moriarty and I'm here to discuss with us our topic on wind energy, which is 6.12. Alright, so with wind energy, we know this is a renewable, non-depletable fuel source in where we can generate energy by the kinetic energy of wind, right, moving air. In terms of looking at all of our different renewable resources, we know that hydroelectric is typically number one, right? That's usually the renewable resource that countries globally tend to use more of. But now we're starting to see more and more areas around the globe harness wind energy. Now we can do that through wind turbines, and it's going to be the blades of those turbines that are going to spin via the moving air there, and that transfers energy to a gearbox that's going to be found kind of like alongside those turbines there, and that's going to transfer energy to a generator to then eventually be pushed out to the electrical grid. Now, China actually generates more electrical energy via wind energy than really any other country in the world. However, some relatively small countries like Denmark actually have a much higher percentage of their electricity specifically directly from wind. So we're starting to see more and more countries implement this type of renewable, non-depletable resource. Now, wind turbines on land, because remember, wind turbines can actually be installed on land, and they can also be installed actually in the ocean as well. So wind turbines on land are usually going to be placed in more rural type areas, away from buildings, away from densely populated areas. They're usually grouped in either a wind farm or a wind park. In some cases, when we find them in the ocean, we tend to call that an offshore wind farm. The generating of electricity with our wind turbine, we said, turns that turbine, right? When we see here, the gearbox is located here, right? So the kinetic energy of those blades then move, right? That transfers then that mechanical energy to our generator and eventually out to the electrical grid. The average turbine can power about 460 homes, and depending upon the wind turbine, it can have about 50 to 30% capacity, so that's about as much energy that it can generate when winds are upwards of 8 to about 55 miles per hour. Now, some advantages to wind. We said it's renewable, it is non-depletable, it is free, right? After manufacturing and installing, there's really little energy, money that can go into the maintenance and requirement of it. We know that it does not produce any pollution, no greenhouse gases are associated with this, and wind farms can be on land or they could be in the ocean. Some disadvantages, though, most off-grid residential wind energy systems tend to rely on batteries in order to store that, and we know that the use of batteries and the materials used to make those batteries usually have negative environmental impacts, right? Because being able to mine for those materials, we know, has tremendous impacts like toxic materials, the release of greenhouse gases, and so on. Wind turbines, in some cases, people have a mentality known as like a not in my backyard kind of mentality, where they don't want wind turbines near them because they can be noisy when the turbines are moving. In some cases, some people may find them unattractive. So in some cases, areas may not want to have turbines because the population deems them not very aesthetically pleasing. Another ecological disadvantage to wind turbines is the fact that, unfortunately, birds, bats, maybe even some butterflies, their migration patterns can be impacted by these because they can be killed by the spinning of the turbines. Now, in your note packet, you want to just find an empty space, and at this point, you want to pause the video and answer the practice FRQ. All right, at this point, we should have answered the practice FRQ, which was to identify one ecological drawback of using wind energy. So we know, although wind energy is a renewable, non-depletable resource, the ecological drawback to using wind energy would be that the spinning of our wind turbines can negatively impact migrating birds, bats, butterflies, due to the fact that they can get caught, right, in the turbines and they wind up being killed. All right, everyone, that is it for our video on 6.12 on wind energy. If you have any questions, please leave that at the end of the video.